Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Gay News Break. I'm John Califer.
And I'm Connie Martin.
Connie, did you do anything exciting last weekend?
The group I clog with performed for sport at a fundraiser this weekend.
Oh, that sounds like
my
fun.
excitement.
Have you done that recently? It seems like it's been a while since you clogged, didn't it?
Yeah, a couple months since we did.
Yeah.
How about yourself? Did you do anything exciting?
I did the funnest thing. My little hometown of Medford, Oklahoma plays 8-man football, and they played a team from Powers, Oregon. They flew an 8-man football team in.
Wow.
There were 4,000 people at this football game. The town has a population of like 1,200. So it was really quite an event for the little town, and it was a lot of fun.
Did you play or just watch?
Just watched. It was a high school game.
Oh, a high school game? And they flew all the way from Oregon for a high school game?
Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing.
It was incredible. Anyway, enough of that. Stick with us. We've got a lot more of the show coming up.
Hi, y'all boys ready to order?
I think I'll have the burger special.
We don't serve your kind in here.
What did you say?
I said we don't serve your kind in here. Y'all are just gonna have to leave.
You people know you're not welcome here. We don't serve homosexuals.
Fortunately, many Americans have found a way to respond to HIV.
You got a friend that's got AIDS.
What? They're shooting up? You think that's the only way
They're educating their employees.
The issue here is education. AIDS is growing fast.
Their communities,
in small towns.
especially their friends and their families.
Last year I found out that I have HIV.
If we're going to prevent the spread of HIV, each and every one of us must do our part. Find out how you can help prevent HIV. Call 1-800-342-AIDS.
Did you bring it?
I forgot it.
Forget it.
Next time, don't forget it. And every time, make it part of the relationship.
A latex condom used consistently and correctly prevents the spread of HIV, the virus that causes AIDS, and may save your life.
Hi, I'm Connie Martin with this week's local news. Oklahoma has once again gained national attention as one of the nation's top news programs prepares to do a story on the Tin Drum controversy taking place in our state. NBC's Dateline was in town to do their background work and attended the September 18th library meeting. Members of OCAF were there to battle it out with members of the ACLU and supporters of the Oklahoma City Metro Library System's open shelving policy. The show is set to air sometime in November, and I think many Oklahomans will watch and see what the nation is learning about our state. And the Long-Term Survivors Group for people with HIV and AIDS, recently formed, has gained much interest across the state. Within just a few weeks, the program has gone from a handful of people to several dozen. Interest has been tremendous, and co-founders believe the idea of beating the odds and living longer has been the reason for the overwhelming response. More informational meetings are scheduled, and you can find the dates and times in our community bulletin at the end of the show. After more than a month of controversy among its board members, the district has taken over the Lighthouse Metropolitan Community Church in Oklahoma City. At their September 12th meeting, a representative from the district seized the church treasury, fired the board, and locked the church doors. All of this started over a debate on who should be the new full-time pastor. An interim pastor has been chosen, but the district has not yet decided how to handle the situation and hopes to have a decision in the near future. Stay with us and we'll be back with John and some exciting stuff in the national news.
Well, as promised, here we go with the national news. We are sad to report high school student leader Jacob Orozco recently committed suicide. Orozco fought the Salt Lake City School District for 2 years for formal recognition of East High School's Gay Straight Student Alliance. Orozco hoped the group could provide support for students dealing with issues of sexual orientation and homophobia. Actually, he was to be the group's next president this fall. In memory of Orozco's efforts, Sabaco Catalog's Safe Schools Initiative donated $2,500 to create a fund to continue his cause. Other supporters are Planet Out and XY Magazine. If you haven't marked your calendar yet, do it now. Saturday, October 11th is National Coming Out Day. The spokesperson for this year's project is Betty DeGeneres, who has a lesbian daughter you may have heard of. Actually, her daughter Ellen's groundbreaking step in coming out personally and as her fictional TV character can serve as an impetus for each of us to ask what is the next step we can take. The more honest and visible we are, the more we can break down incorrect myths and stereotypes, also making it easier for anyone supporting the end of discrimination to take a stand. The Human Rights Campaign is stressing this year how we need to encourage fair-minded straight persons to also come out and voice their support for equal rights. And here's just one example of what our higher visibility can accomplish. 2.5 years ago, Maine conservatives put forth a referendum to deny civil rights protections to gays and lesbians. In response, Jonathan Lee founded the Maine Speak Out Project. His idea was to demystify this minority by giving the average voter a chance to see what we look like. Eventually, they held over 150 public dialogues at Kiwanis clubs, Rotary clubs, and churches. The initiative was defeated, and Maine voters went on to enact legislation to prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation. Consequently, all 6 New England states now provide a model for the country of protecting their citizens against discrimination. And Bob Smith, the first openly gay comedian to appear on The Tonight Show in 1994, will have his first book, Openly Bob, published this month. Smith, who is 38 and says, if I'm going to be openly gay, why should I lie about my age, also had an HBO special. Currently, he has a deal for a Showtime pilot and is working up a TV comedy script. He says it is all about his wanting to break into showbiz, his Cuban bandleader boyfriend, and their dowdy lesbian neighbors. Stay with us, we've got a lot more interesting things coming up.
I've taught my kids just the way my mama taught me. She gave me a strong sense about what's right. She called it mother wit. Even as young as my kids are, they know their way around. And they're well aware I can draw the line if I have to. But with AIDS out there, I'm gonna have to dig a little deeper and talk a little longer about drugs, sex, and AIDS.
We can help you talk about AIDS. For a free guide, call 1-800-342-AIDS.
If I'm going to have sex, it's going to be protected. And if it's not going to be protected, it's not going to be sex. I will talk about sex in a minute.
I thought, I can't let this conversation drop here.
We have to talk about sex.
There's no reason to be scared.
It's going to come up. If you don't practice safe sex and I do, then we are not made for each other, honey. It's not that hard. Get those words out.
I'll tell you.
Initiate it. I'm HIV negative and I intend to stay that way.
Respect yourself. Protect yourself.
Ahora estamos hablando de sexo, ¿no? Mi padre y mi madre a mí no me dijeron nada.
Mis padres me hablaron de eso desde muy chica.
Necesitamos tener a gente que vayan a educar a nuestros jóvenes.
Hablen con sus papás, otra persona de su familia que les va a hablar bien.
Yo lo fui aprendiendo por medio de otras personas.
Lo importante es siempre tener la información.
Debemos tener mucho cuidado.
Tenemos que protegernos.
Protégete. Respétate.
Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Out. I'm Connie Martin, and here with me this evening is Natasha Rice from Herland. Natasha, would you like to tell us a little bit about what Herland is and what they do?
Yeah, Herland is a women's resource center located in Oklahoma City at 2312 Northwest 39th. And we have a bookstore and a lending library that's open on the weekends, as well as doing lots of different social activities.
Do you have any support group type activities there?
We don't have a support group per se. We do try and do social activities to try and bring the women's community together. We have a newsletter that's put out monthly, and that's kind of a good way of bringing people together and telling people what's out there.
That tells everybody, has a calendar in there and tells everybody.
Has a calendar, tells about social events and educational forums. We also have book reviews and music reviews as well.
And what have you got coming up here in the near future?
Well, in October we have our annual retreat, our fall retreat. We have 2 a year, one in the spring and one in the fall. And this one's October 17th through the 19th at Lake Murray Lodge.
And do you guys rent cabins, or do you camp in tents, or a combination? Or?
Right, we rent a whole kind of a camp area, and we have cabins, and people pre-register, and then they get a bunk bed and 3 meals that we provide, and then we have a lot of entertainment and workshops and things like that go on.
And if people don't have other people they're going with, you guys will just put them in a cabin with other people?
Oh yeah, most people do the cabins. There's some people that bring camp equipment and rough it and things like that, but most of us don't like that. Most of us like a bed.
Not very many tents there.
There's a few, usually at least 5 or 6, and sometimes we even have people that bring RVs and kind of do it in the parking lot. But
what about pets? People bring their pets?
People are allowed to bring their dogs as long as they're chained up, and people bring their kids as well.
Is there any age limit on the kids? Or?
I think we have an upper age limit maybe of 14 or 15 on male children, because it's supposed to be a women's only event.
So boys can come as long as they're 14 and under?
As long as they're kind of, under the teenage years.
Okay. And how people can just get your phone number off our community bulletin board and call and get information on it?
Right, they can call that phone number or send in information to the address that y'all are providing as well on the screen.
Okay.
And our deadline for the retreat is October 14th for pre-registration.
Okay, what type of activities are you going to have?
Well, we're going to have, our main entertainment is Circle of Friends, and they are an Oklahoma City women's band. And we're also going to have a women's music festival during the day, 2 to 6 o'clock, and that's going to be Peggy Johnson and Wendy Allen. Lots of the kind of the Oklahoma City favorites are going to be there.
Local entertainers coming.
Right, and we also have some workshops. A drumming workshop by Barbara Cleveland. She's one of the main founders of Herland from many years ago. She's going to be there as a special treat doing a drum workshop. We've also got a poetry workshop. And I think we have a massage workshop and also an American Sign Language workshop.
So you guys will be teaching sign language there?
Yeah, just basic stuff.
That'll be very interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And most people just kind of chill out and go swimming and do lake stuff or go for nature hikes and things like that. It's real low-key.
Do most people get there on Friday evening, or does it start on Saturday morning?
Yeah, most people get there Friday evening. We start registering people at 4 o'clock. And then people come though all night, and then a lot of people do get there in the morning, Saturday morning.
And Saturday nights is when you do your entertainment with Circle of Friends? And
right, we've got a 2 to 4, we've got the Women's Music Festival, then at 6 o'clock we've got a potluck. Everybody kind of chips in, and we have our gourmets show up and cook us wonderful meals. And then around 8 o'clock we have Circle of Friends that's going to entertain us.
Okay, and if people want to come just for the entertainment, can they register for that?
Yes,
come for the potluck and the entertainment?
Yeah, and that is $10.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody will take down that information, and hopefully you'll have a very good turnout for this time.
Yes, thank you.
We'll have you come back again when you have something coming up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let us know what you're doing. Thanks for staying with us, and we'll be back.
Hi, remember me? Gosh, it's been a long time. Now I'm here with the World News. At least 18 gays have been murdered in Rome in the 1990s by straight immigrants posing as male prostitutes, according to police and gay leaders. The latest victim was university professor and New York Times correspondent Luis Interisi. Like the others, he was killed in his own home, and there were no signs of forced entry. Other victims include an actor, a banker, a priest, a television director, and a theater critic. Police are saying that most of these murders have been committed by prostitutes, probably foreigners, who go to their clients' homes and then rob them. Jorge Cuevas, co-owner of the popular gay club Max's, believes that the murderers are heterosexual immigrants who pose as male prostitutes and murder for money. In Paris, France, police have closed 5 gay nightclubs due to alleged trafficking in ecstasy and cocaine. These clubs will remain shut for 6 months unless appeals reverse the decision. 2 local gay organizations are claiming that police are targeting more gay clubs than straight. They say that the police are knowingly practicing discrimination against the homosexual community. Some gay activists are arguing that closing the clubs will only send the dealers out into the streets. And a Dutch gay group has filed a complaint with the National Equal Opportunities Commission opposing the blanket ban on blood donations by gay men. This group believes that the guidelines are discriminatory. A spokesman for the Blood Transfusion Agency responded that the policy was put in place to exclude people who live in high-risk groups. Laurette Spolman, president of the Association for the Integration of Homosexuals, wants authorities to look at whether somebody has behaved in a high-risk way, like perhaps having unprotected sex, not whether they are homosexual or not. And finally, the second-ranking officer in Australia's third-largest church has resigned due to ongoing controversy over her coming out of the closet at the church's annual assembly. The Reverend Dorothy McRae McMahon outed herself as the assembly wrestled with the question of ordaining openly gay clergy. McRae McMahon felt that everyone was concentrating too much on her and not dealing with more important issues. The church ultimately chose not to make a decision on ordaining gays at this time. Okay, stay with us one more time, and Connie will be back with the health news.
As you know, Alan has announced he's HIV positive. He's okay, but does anybody know what he's going through? What do our people think? We need to get on this. Shirley, do we have an employee policy? Are we required to set one up? Kurt, is he covered by our insurance plan?
At least 1 in 10 businesses has had an employee with HIV.
John, Terry?
If you have a business, you need answers.
How can we help?
Call for this manager's kit.
It's awfully quiet in here.
And help keep your workplace healthy and productive.
I love to work out. I like my body to be perfect. That's because I lead an active social life. I want to look good. But no matter what shape you're in, anyone can get the AIDS virus. And one workout that can protect you from the AIDS virus is not to take risks when it comes to sex.
Find out what kind of behavior puts you at risk. Call your local AIDS hotline or 1-800-342-AIDS.
It would be nice if latex condoms were automatic. But since they're not, using them should be. Simply because a latex condom used consistently and correctly will prevent the spread of HIV.
Hi, I'm Connie Martin with this week's health news. Doctors are urging the U.S. government to give the go-ahead for testing of the AIDS vaccine they have volunteered to test on themselves. The National Institutes of Health has expressed doubts about whether or not trials should be done on humans. The doctors met with them last week to convince them it was time to begin the trials. The Association of Physicians in AIDS Care is coordinating the effort and is also pushing for the start of human trials. And the Food and Drug Administration is working on a proposal that would require clinical trials of AIDS drugs to include women. Since 1993, the FDA has approved the inclusion of women of childbearing age in clinical trials, but drug companies have not yet done so on their own. The FDA published the proposal in the September 24th Federal Register and will be accepting written comments for 90 days. If implemented, the FDA will be able to turn down approval for trials based on the exclusion of women. And according to the National Institutes of Health, the survival gap between older and younger AIDS patients is growing. While the 10-year survival rate among patients under age 15 is 86%, the 10-year survival rate among patients more than 55 years of age is just 12%. Researchers are unsure of the reason for this gap, but feel the care that older patients receive is different than it is for the younger patients. And a recent study done by the CDC found a drop of 26% in AIDS-related deaths between 1995 and 1996. AIDS is no longer the leading cause of death in Americans aged 25 to 44. Before leveling off in 1995, the death rate from AIDS had grown 16% yearly. We'll be right back with another story from John.
Well, as you can tell, I'm not John. I'm Ricky Staten with tonight's media news. Opening this weekend is the new film Kiss the Girls, starring Morgan Freeman and Ashley Judd. The movie is based on the best-selling novel by James Patterson. I was so intrigued by the previews, which reminded me of The Silence of the Lambs, that I ran out and got the book from the library last week. I read the book in 2 days. The plot centers around a specific type of serial killer called a collector who kidnaps beautiful women and holds them hostage for his personal sexual pleasures. If the film can sustain the intensity of the novel, this will be a huge hit. I can't wait. 3 years ago, I discovered a book called Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, written by John Berendt. After traveling to Savannah, Georgia, he was so fascinated by the city and its quirky residents that he stayed for a while. This nonfiction book has been on the New York Times bestseller list for 167 weeks. That's over 3 years. Amazingly, over 1.5 million hardback copies have been sold, and it's had 83 printings. The central plot evolves around a gay antiques dealer that murders his drunken lover in his grand Savannah home. The book introduces us to a voodoo priestess, con artist, and martini-drinking society ladies. One of the most colorful characters is a drag queen named the Lady Chablis, who's received so much publicity from the book that she's published her own autobiography entitled Hiding My Candy. This fall, a film version of the book, directed by Clint Eastwood, will be released. The film has generated controversy already, so I'll be telling you more about all this in the coming weeks. Speaking of drag queens, I hope you caught last week's episode of Fired Up, which airs on NBC Monday nights at 7:30. It was hilarious. A gay character named Ashley, played by Mark Davis, decides to abandon his career as a female impersonator after receiving a bad review in the newspaper. His dad, seeing that his son is unhappy not performing, seeks out an older drag queen that had inspired Ashley to become a performer. The older man convinces Ashley to return to the stage with the line, "Being a drag queen isn't for sissies." I admit that I hadn't really watched this series much before. This episode, though, showed gay acceptance, compassion, intelligence, and humor, the things we'd like to see on all television shows. I'll definitely watch it again. A few weeks ago, we told you about the video release of Waiting for Guffman. I truly hope everyone sees it. I rented it this past week, and it's so funny. Many well-known comic actors have roles in the film. Once again, it's a pseudo-documentary centering around a flamboyant character named Corky St. Clair, who's staging a show to celebrate a small Missouri town's 150th anniversary. While watching this video, I kept seeing parts of myself in the character of Corky St. Clair. During the video, I had a stark realization. I'm just a big old queer, but it's okay. The lessons I hope you take from this video are: be who you truly are, be proud of who you are, and remember our diversity is a wonderful thing. Now, coming up, really, John will be next. Thank you.
I mentioned this briefly last week and said I would have a little more to say about it this week, so here goes. A major display of the AIDS Memorial Quilt will be held in Tulsa October 17th through the 20th. The slogan for the quilt is "See it and understand." If you have seen it before, you understand what that means. If you haven't seen it, let me talk for a minute about the significance and the truth of that slogan. Aside from my friends I just don't have anymore, nothing in my experience teaches so well of the horror and sadness of this epidemic. But the quilt teaches its lesson sweetly and gently. Along with its horrible, sad lesson, it gives a great, life-affirming dose of humanity. It also teaches with countless examples of life and love and compassion and the ways one human being can touch another. For anyone who knows of the pain and loss this disease has brought, October 17th through the 20th will provide a rare opportunity to remember and honor those we have lost. For those who don't know of this pain and loss, it's a chance to learn something. Please plan to make a short drive up the turnpike and visit the Names Project AIDS Memorial Quilt at Expo Square Pavilion on the Tulsa Fairgrounds. Well, that brings us to the close of another show, Connie.
It does. Have you seen the quilt before?
I've seen the quilt probably half a dozen times, yeah.
I went to Tulsa and saw it a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah.
It was here.
I hate that it's going to be the same weekend as the Herland Retreat. That's probably going to cut into...
It is the same weekend. Perhaps people can try to fit them both in somehow.
Yeah. Okay. How are we doing for time? Okay.
I guess it's time for us to wrap it up and let you go.
Just about. We got a little bit more time here, and I do want to point out, be sure and watch for the bulletin board at the end of the show. We now have an email address, so I hope some of you will catch that on the bulletin board at the end of the show. And in addition to the talkback line, we now have another way that you can get in touch with us and let you know what you think about what's going on with the show. We hope you will use that.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Until then, good night.